Hello, welcome to the Rooms with Ronald podcast, brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Ronald Harrington. In 2023, I set an intention to shop 100 apartment communities to see how leasing was evolving around the country. Rooms with Ronald was born out of that experience. In this series, I share my experiences and engage in meaningful conversations with other professionals in the industry as we discuss all things related to leasing and marketing. Join in as we expand the Rooms with Ronald experiment. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rooms with Ronald. I'm your host, Ronald Harrington. And in this podcast, we talk all things leasing and marketing. I have a very special guest today, an interesting guest. I am joined by my husband, Jared Walls, who is the Area Director of Sales with Ivy Hospitality. Jared, I don't know if the people are ready for you and I together.
Yeah, probably not.
Now, you're probably wondering why I have someone who doesn't work in multifamily on today's episode, but I thought I would be interested to kind of discuss ways how other people are selling products outside of our industry. And I thought, well, me and my husband have lots of great conversation at home about different sales approaches and different techniques that work. And I thought I would get him on, just because I like to make him uncomfortable. And I thought this is way out of his realm. So Jared, thanks for playing along.
Absolutely. It should be fun.
It's going to be a fun conversation, that's for sure. So you're an area director of sales. So do you mind telling us what that entails and what does that even mean?
Yeah, so in the hospitality industry, mostly focusing on hotels is my realm. So I oversee the Muncie, Indiana, and Richmond, Indiana markets for Ivy Hospitality and our ownership group, Witness Investment. So within Richmond, I have 3 hotels, 2 Hilton products, 1 IHG product, and then here in Muncie, Indiana, where we live, I have the Hampton Inn and Suites, and then under development, Home 2 Suites. So we have elevator shafts and everything else up over there. So in about 6 months, we'll start pre-selling that property to get ready to open it as a new extended stay option here in this community.
Which is going to be a little bit different, right? So you get the short-term room nights, as we call it, and I'm more on the long-term with the room, like bedrooms and things like that. So you have 2 markets, and a lot of our listeners might be in the same situation. They may not be markets, but they may be product types. So do you mind sharing the difference between the 2 markets?
Yeah, so Richmond and Muncie are night and day. They are not identical at all. So Richmond, Indiana actually sits on the Ohio line. It's divided by 70. So as you're getting off on National Road or US 40 there in Richmond, you can see our 3 properties. But when you look to the left, you see Ohio. So that comes with its own challenges of being right on the state line. However, within the 2 markets, Muncie, we see a lot of, more what I like to call leisure travel with, whether it's youth sports, partnering with the university and all the collegiate teams that come in to compete against Ball State, guest speakers at the university, everything of that nature. And then within both markets, we also have, what we like to call B-tier business travel as well. So Richmond, Muncie, very similar in community size with the number of factories and things of that nature that bring individuals in from their corporate headquarters or when they may have a special project going on, which you can get, more room nights in that fashion. Where Richmond is a little bit better set it up as a community is they have a diversity in their property. So Hampton and Holiday Inn Express by IHG are very similar products where it is breakfast included for all guests, Wi-Fi, parking, there really isn't additional fees. It's a focused service brand is what we like to call it. And then Home 2s is your extended stay brand. So even in Richmond, I can see reservations for anywhere from 30 nights to 60 nights to had a guy live at the hotel for 2 years. I mean, he literally had a 700 and some odd night stay with us. Every state is different in what their tax laws are. So in Indiana, once you've stayed 30 days, the reservation actually becomes tax exempt, and they do not pay taxes moving forward. So almost like paying rent in the multifamily world. The unique thing about Home2s is they have mini kitchenettes. So you have full fridge, dishwasher, garbage disposal, real dishes. You can check out an induction burner. We have gas grills available for our guests. So it's almost like a mini apartment building, honestly. We have our fire pit patio at every single Home2, pet relief stations. So it reminds me very much of an apartment community.
Right. And it has, the amenities, right? So you talked about the gas grill. I mean, most hotels have the gym, same thing, right? And what I find interesting when the parallel is obviously 100 years ago, it seems like I worked in hotel sales. So like I kind of have that same like background on it. And you're really like selling to the client. You have to sell those amenities. And I worked in full service. So like I did a lot of like site visits with people. And obviously because I'm married to you, I know you don't have to necessarily do a lot of site visits. These people are almost kind of signing contracts sight unseen with you.
Oh, completely. I mean, 2018, when I started in this industry, completely different story. I mean, I felt like I was doing 1 to 2 site visits a week before companies wanted to sign corporate rates with you. They wanted to come see the product, where are they putting their people up at? And that internet has changed that 100%. I went from taking 10 to 12 phone calls a day to maybe 1 or 2 because I'm getting 50 to 80 emails a day now of people visiting the website, looking at the photos, clicking the button, I want more information. And depending on how they navigate our website determines whether that comes directly to me as the property sales leader or whether that might go to the brand itself. It all depends on what information they actually plug in there. The brand likes to snag up some of those, like, I'm looking for 800 rooms, yada, yada, yada. They're like, okay, we need to capture this account and make them a preferred Hilton or preferred IHG client. So, that's where it also gets unique is our corporate accounts are managed on 2 different levels. I don't know, I not only deal with just people locally and establishing rates and partnering with them, but then also with the brand as well, because majors accounts like Amazon and things of that nature, the brands manage those accounts. So
let's kind of like talk about that, right? Because I know a lot of times we at home talk about like your locally negotiated rates versus your group sales and like kind of like that mix. And I kind of think of that mix in my world as like a lease expiration management system, right? I can only have so many apartment homes each month expiring in case they don't renew. You don't want to sell all of your hotel rooms to a group because then you can't get the business travel. So how do you prospect clients?
Yeah, so prospecting and managing our mix, 2 completely different worlds. So with group, if we're doing a group block, I have a specific need. I need 20 rooms because I'm getting married over these 2 dates. I qualify that piece of business, offer them the best discounted rate I can. We hold those rooms out of our inventory until a given date, typically 30 days out. Anything shorter than 30 days, they do need to guarantee me that pickup and pay for it. In our world, we call it attrition. And then as far as corporate travel, or business travel, you look at it from a standpoint of either last room availability, meaning even if the hotel has 1 room left to sell, they can book it at that corporate negotiated rate. Now, if they're wanting a little bit better of a rate and trying to get that rate lower, an option I can add to them is what we call non-last room availability, meaning once we hit a certain threshold of occupancy over a given date, it is going to yield out their rate and that will not be bookable for that given night. So that's where the relationships come in. hugely is educating your clients, working with them closely, visiting them very often to ensure that they understand the agreement between the hotels and them as a company. So there's no hurt feelings, upset, last minute need, they couldn't get a room, and then you don't have that client come back. So it is about being transparent, but doing it in a very professional, hospitable.
So when you are going out and you're hunting down new clients, like in our world, we're more of a reactive sales team, right? Like we don't necessarily have to go out and cold sell because all of our leads are coming to us. How do you, like, when you're going out, how do you manage that, right? Because sometimes for you it is a cold sell, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah. So the joy of our world is there is probably 80 different ways to 100 that you can do it. So one amazing resource out there that is even available in the apartment industry is CoStar. CoStar is an amazing resource. They have developed it way beyond a monthly, weekly star report. So I can actually go into CoStar and say, I'm looking at Muncie, Indiana. I'm looking at leases that have been signed in the last 30 days for commercial buildings, and can also narrow that down, and it will give me anything and everything that is public record. So how much they signed that lease for, if they're a public entity that reports, you can also get their budget sometimes, so you get an idea of how much money they have to spend as well. So that's one avenue to look at it. There's platforms out there such as Construction Wire, things of that nature, where hotels and even apartments can sign up for a subscription to things like Construction Wire, CoStar, and you see bids essentially. So for instance, one that has been populating quite often is an account where the local hospital in Richmond, they are building a brand new facility there in Richmond. So it'll tell you who the building owner is, who the general contractor is, everything of that nature. So then once you have that information, you can do the backwards dive, right? Where is the corporate headquarters for this general contractor? Seattle, Washington. Okay. Obviously, their crews don't live in Richmond, Indiana. They're going to need room nights. So that's when you start diving into LinkedIn. You're looking for project managers. You're looking for those decision makers at the company. A lot of times on LinkedIn, people have their titles. So if you search XYZ Construction and you see somebody has a profile in there and their title is Director of Corporate Travel Management, I'm shooting that person a message and saying, hey, I see you have an upcoming project here in Richmond, Indiana. We'd love to be your preferred hotel. Here's my contact information. Can we set up a time to connect type thing? So that's one way to do it. The other way is completely cold calling. Gatekeepers are fun. You got to find a way around the gatekeepers. And so that's where networking in your community comes into play. So this past Wednesday, myself and the general manager for here at the Muncie property, we went out and delivered mums to all of our high producing accounts as a thank you. It was not a, hey, give us more room nights. Hey, what more business can you give me? It was a thank you. And it served multiple purposes. One, thanking them for their business, being in a hospitality world, that goes a long way with people. But we are also in what we call RFP season. So most of our corporate rates are set on a calendar year. So here in Q4, I'm going to be reaching out to everyone in an effort to renegotiate their 2025 rates. So this provided an opportunity of, I'm not here to ask you for anything. I'm not here to say, hey, give me more of your money whatsoever. It was simply a thank you. But that makes that next step of Q4 coming up and saying, hey, we need to have a discussion about your 2025 rates. When's a good time for us to have a call, meet in person, whatever that may look like. And it softens that ask so that the client doesn't feel as though I'm only seeing them or coming to them when I want more money from them, or I want them to pay more for their hotel rooms. So it's, again, that relationship building. And to get past those gatekeepers, it's networking in your local community. So chamber events are an amazing opportunity. Every community across the United States has a chamber of some sorts, shape or form, attending those events. So there is an account here in Muncie that when I walked in, knew we were going to have to try to make it past the gatekeeper of some sort, but to say, hey, I know you have a project coming up. We're already loaded with you. We're a preferred hotel with you. Please send your people to us. Walked in, receptionist was out. Guy that was head over customer service came up to the front when we rang the bell, and I knew him. His wife was the first person that hired me at the YMCA during my YMCA career back when I was 15 years old. So I knew I had an in, and boom, I got my information in front of who I needed. But not attending those events, not, spreading your wealth of engagement within your community doesn't allow you to make those connections for people to recognize you when you walk through the door.
Yeah. So let's go to Richmond for a second. Let's talk about the Richmond, because why is you have 3 different hotels, and the IHG just kind of changed how you're going to sell it from a full service to a select service. And then you have your Hampton, you have the home too. So you're talking to a client calls you up for the first time, you're trying to sell this market. How do you navigate which hotel is based for?
Oh, it's qualifying all day long. No different than selling a lease to somebody. What are their needs? If they've reached out to me, they have a need and they know what their needs are. So you have to embrace the model of 2 ears, 1 mouth and listen. I've had a lot of clients that I have sat on the phone for 45 minutes trying to get to the need and asking all the right questions. What nights are you looking for? What is most important with your stay? Is it the room itself? Is it meeting space that you need accompanying these rooms? Is it, a relaxed outdoor environment for people to come back and unwind after work? What is bringing you to the area? And it's asking all those right questions to identify and say, okay, I appreciate you giving me a call here. However, this is an extended stay property. We don't have meeting space at this hotel, but I do have another hotel that sits directly behind. We have over 3,000 square foot of banquet space. Our ballroom can hold up to 250 people and accompanying guest rooms. We can take care of all of your needs there. Is that something you're interested in? Now, what gets unique in hotels is rewards, right? You get your people that are loyal to Hilton, loyal to IHG. They want those rewards points, especially when work's paying for it, right? Like, go on that free vacation on your points.
We know nothing about that, do we?
Not at all. Nothing. Not at all. But, so that's, a conflict that you have to overcome and say, hey, I completely understand where you're coming from. I would love to issue those Hilton Honors points, but here, let's take a look at this. If I sign you up for Business Edge with IHG, you can get an introductory 10,000 points immediately into your account. You're going to accrue points for every bit of this stay, not only the revenue on your guest rooms, but on your meeting space as well. And, if I can book you by the end of the week, I'll throw an extra 5,000 points your way.
So how do you handle it, right? Because in multifamily, there are times that we might be the only property of that company in the area. And then there's other times where we are 10 or 15 people deep, like properties deep. So how do you ensure that A, it's the best fit, B, that you're essentially not shifting business from your sister hotel when you have 3 properties that I know the area, right, sit literally on top of each other. 2 of them are in the same parking lot. So how are you ensuring things like that are?
So multiple assets. One, it's looking at not only your next 7 days, but your next 30, 60, 90-day outlook. Where is the need? Who has the most occupancy at this given time? So if I've got 15 to 20 sellout dates already in the next 30 days at my home for instance, an extended stay property, and somebody's needing 2 nights and it's over one of those sellouts. One strategy, you quote a little bit higher on the rate there because people are money driven. which completely acceptable in this scenario, right? Like not price gouging. Hotels are a complete supply and demand model. I mean, the automated system changes my rate 4 times a day for 365 days to
I will say
evaluate.
it's the same thing in multifamily, but currently legislation thinks otherwise, but it is all based off supply and demand. So,
Exactly. I mean, it's Econ 101. So, regardless of what they think, it is still your basic economy structure. You know, the more demand you have, the higher your rate should be to ensure profitability and future growth to continue to have that supply available to keep your community growing. If you're static, it's not going to happen. Your community's not going to grow. Putting on a different hat there. So I pivot as I do serve on our board for our local travel and tourism organization or convention and visitors bureau. So pivot on that one, but you know, you can quote the rate a little bit higher because of the demand that that property already has. One, looking at your budget. Two, what are you able to do from a rate standpoint? You know, if the client tells you their budget is, I can't pay more than $150 a night, I'm going to tell you, my home two is not your option. Right? Our budget is a little bit higher there. That was a new build. We just opened during a pandemic. God bless my owners opening a hotel in the midst of COVID-19 and having a loan on the property and having to ensure profitability. You know, we have some aggressive budgets there because, you know, there's a debt to income ratio there that has to be paid back. You know, they have to pay back the bank. You know, my assets that have been in the market longer, they have been completely remodeled. But it wasn't a new build. It wasn't building from the ground up. So our budgets could be a little bit softer there. So sometimes I have more flexibility in rate there as well. So if I know their budget's 150, but my budgeted rate or average daily rate for that month is X, my Holiday Inn Express, then okay, yeah, I can meet that budget and I can give you 139 as a group rate for just those 2 nights, which a lot of times is going to fit their needs more too, even with the breakfast aspect. So that's sometimes how you can pivot if they're really set on, you know, say that home to property. Say, hey, I hear you. I just hearing your needs, I don't think it's the right fit for you because home twos are designed for extended stay. Our breakfast is grab and go, not grow. So it's hot breakfast sandwiches. It's items that you can grab as you're running out the door to go to work, right? Whereas my Holiday Inn Express, my Hamptons, you know, we have chafing dishes with, you know, a hot egg product, a hot meat product, and normally a starch, vat of oatmeal. So it is that more home cooked buffet breakfast meal.
yeah, I think like it's interesting too, like knowing you and your prospecting and things like that. And the relationship is so important to you. And I think right now is a perfect time, right? Because we just like we're getting out of our busy season. We're already starting to think about the renewal season coming up. And you mentioned uh, RFP season and renegotiating rates, which usually there's an increase for the most part, especially knowing that your owners just invested all this money into the properties and you have, you know, a new build and all of that. So how do you kind of balance that, right? Like obviously you're not going in and telling somebody that you're increasing their rates 75 $100 like we're doing on our end, but how do you balance that to show the value when sometimes it might only be $5 or $10?
Well, I think it comes down to service. I mean, as much as the world is becoming techie and, you know, everything like that, people honestly miss the human touch. So little things can go a super long way and it's transferable whether it's hotels or it's apartments, you know. If you know you have a client that has rates coming up for renegotiation and everything like that, and you have 4 reservations that week for them coming in, something as small as a handwritten thank you card. Thank you for staying with us. We appreciate your business, yada, yada, yada. Pre-putting it in their room before they check in and then arriving that evening to see that in their room. They go back and tell their company, hey, guess what this place did for me? And because not everyone is doing that anymore, it is so transactional. People are really getting in that, okay, check you in, okay, check you out, have a great day. Our management company and our hotels, we have some amazing general managers and leaders within our properties who really embrace the relationship-based selling. So, I know of an account that has a major project coming on. I already have a calendar invite on all 4 management staff at this location's calendar to say, place welcome basket in this guest room prior to arrival. That way it's on all of our calendars. We don't forget, but we want to wow them. I think it translates to the same, each month, run that report. Who do you have renewing in the next 30, 60, 90 days, and have a 30, 60, 90 engagement plan. 1 month it can be a handwritten thank you card. Next month it could be a handwritten thank you card with enjoy some Starbucks on us, and give them a $10 gift card to Starbucks. And then, going into that month before renewal, maybe you personalize it even more. They have a dog. The dog's name is Snoopy, and you get a small Snoopy plush toy, and it's, hey, really thinking about you. Hope you're enjoying living with us, at XYZ community. Let us know if you need anything. And then you approach them with that lease. Yeah, it might be an increase, but are they going to get that personal touch any other apartment community they stay at?
Right. Those are great ideas. I also know that you manage a team and you have a record. You're known for hiring green salespeople that, never worked in hotel sales, just like you when you started in 2018. So how do you relay the importance of relationship building to your new sales managers? Because we struggle with this in multifamily, right? A lot of times we view leasing professionals as an entry level position. We don't give them a lot of training, and we just say, we need you to go, generate revenue, for, all of our for this property and things like that. So how do you relay the importance of that relationship building and instill that into your salespeople?
Yeah, nobody's going to like to hear this, but lead by example. That it is number one. You have to be out there with them. I can't just take a salesperson and say, now go sell. You have to go out there and sell with them. You have to go on the cold calls. When you're making phone calls to clients and to guests for engagement, they should be sitting right there next to you during that training process. So they see how you engage, how bubbly you are. One of my sales managers that I have right now, she's doing absolutely amazing job. And she actually came from a government background. She was looking to get out of that government work. She was working part-time for us. So approached her. She wanted more, brought her on. But in the government world, they didn't believe in fluff. Every email, every communication was supposed to be straight to the point. What do you need? No fluff, no feelings, no nothing. And again, it's coaching and it's how you go about it. But she does get tired of hearing it's not recent, but her first year, I'll say, where's the fluff in this? You're giving them the information, but it is so dry. You're not building a relationship. I revert back to my why days all the time. Use your Oreo method, hamburger method, whatever you want to call it. But every communication you should send should be positive, informative, or corrective. Positive. Every single time. You're starting the conversation on a positive note. You're ending it on a positive note. And it could be something as simple as, hi, Ronald, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I'd be glad to work with you on this. I took a look at your needs and XYZ. I hope you have a wonderful week. Please let me know if you have any questions. Always here and happy to help. It's that simple. They feel the fluff, right? So, but again, it's leading by example. It's sharing those things with them. As I was trying to coach them on completing their sales recaps for each week, on their engagements and everything like that, it was a struggle to get them to understand what we were really looking for in those. So instead of them rolling theirs up to me and me rolling mine up to my boss, I started including them on that roll up. I share my sales recap with them every week, what I'm out doing, the engagements I'm out doing, so they can see that I'm doing it as well. So even in the property management world, would it be a bad thing if a property manager leased an apartment a month and took the leasing agent along with them to say, let me show you how I do it?
Yeah. I'm always like, when I go on site, like leasing is my favorite thing to do when I'm on site, right? Like, I don't like being a manager, like, I don't license the manager seat, but put me out with the leasing people where I get to talk with people and do all of the things that I love to do. It makes it better. One last question I have for you is so you have to juggle a lot, right? You have to inbound phone calls, you have emails coming in, you need to go out with the things, you're managing a team, you have, contracts to send and pick up into the system and all of these things. How do you find time to balance all of the things that have to get done in the work?
That calendar is your best friend. Even if it's not a call, even if it's not a Teams meeting, a Zoom call, an in-person meeting, block out time on your calendar. Prioritize. Put on that calendar, I am prospecting today from 1 to 2 o'clock. From 3 to 4, I am doing admin work. I'm entering groups into our CRM system. I'm, reviewing group pickup and group pace reports, things of that nature. Communicating with my clients on their groups. One thing that is lost is the setting it and forgetting it, right? Like when we do a group block, we hold those rooms out of inventory, tell them they have until X date to pick them up. A lot of times that X date is 30 days before anybody's even checking in. So I send reminders. I every week I come in and okay, what cutoffs do I have this Friday? Hey, Becky Joe, thank you for doing your group block with us. Currently, you have 5 rooms picked up out of your 10 rooms. I wanted to make sure I informed you so that everyone gets the best available rate that's coming to spend this special day with you. And that's an example of a wedding block. And it's that, again, engagement of not just throwing it in your system and saying, okay, I sold a group block. Well, I preach to my team all the time. You can go get a signed contract. You can have a company sign room nights with you. You can have somebody sign a group block agreement saying they need rooms. But if they don't reserve them, you've not done actually anything. So again, it comes back to the engagement. You have to stay engaged and block out that time to ensure that you're able to get it done. So every morning when I get in, that's what the first thing that comes up before email. Well, because to be honest, I've already done email at home before I've came in. I know what I'm walking into email wise. So that calendar pops up. What do I have going on? If I know I all of a sudden have 5 contracts to do, I'm blocking out an hour and a half on my calendar, and I'm saying contract generation. That way, nobody shoots me a Teams call. Nobody shoots me a calendar invite and says, hey, can you jump on a call to talk about XYZ? Because I know I have to get those items done. So block out your calendar. Make sure you prioritize your needs for the day and for the week.
Yeah, I love that you like touched on the follow up because I feel like a lot of times people apply for an apartment and then we forget about it and then we don't do follow up or we don't send the lease in a timely manner and then they go on anywhere else. So you've been doing this since 2018, and I promise this is my last question. And I'm sure you're probably thinking you know me and that it's probably not. But you've been doing this since 2018. What advice would you give that version of you in 2018 have from today? So if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice in this sales world, what would you say to yourself?
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Honestly, hotels are a little bit unique. I will say that you can't go to college and learn how to run a hotel, no matter what anybody tells you. You can take all the hospitality classes. You can do all that, and that is great. You need the education. You need the secondary education, but until you've worked that front desk, until you have actually immersed yourself in the industry, you're not going to just go to college and say, hey, I'm going to be a general manager or I'm going to be a director of sales at a hotel. It's not possible until you learn it, first and foremost. And a lot of it is self-taught. You have to use the tools and the resources that the brands give you, that your management company gives you, and to network with your peers so you have somebody to learn from. I think that is the biggest thing. And so when I first got into hotels, I'm like, I have to sell. That's in my title. I have to do it. And my bosses, my owners, everyone knew after about 6 months, I was kind of bored. I was putting in those 50-hour weeks. I had a corporate rate with basically every company in our community that brought in room nights. Revenue was up, everything. And I am not a believer of time clock theft. So before I gained more hotels, I used to go work our front desk and greet our guests, know who was checking in, know who was checking out. I'd go help out in laundry for the last hour or so of the day because I ran a marathon those first 6 months. I sprinted those first 6 months. I did not pace myself and take the time to spread everything out and really learn it. So, there was a little bit of a curve afterwards where it's like, okay, I need to go back and understand this better. I need to do a little bit more education on travel agents and travel agent commissions to understand that aspect better. So, it's better to do it right the first time than have to go back and touch it a second time. So again, treat it as a marathon, not a sprint.
In multifamily, it is definitely a marathon. Like, we have some busy months, and then we kind of go into renewal season, and we had to start planning for the next. Well, Jared, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope I didn't make you too nervous.
No, it was pretty easy, actually.
It's just like having a conversation on the couch with each other. So I've been joined today by Jared Walls, who is the Area Director of Sales for Ivy Hospitality in the Muncie, Indiana and Richmond market. I hope you found today's conversation insightful, some parallels between hotel sales and the multifamily leasing realm. I've been your host, Ronald Harrington, and until next time, guys, happy leasing. Bye. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope I left you with some fresh ideas or a new perspective. Leasing and marketing are evolving rapidly, and Rooms with Ronald is committed to offering a place to hear about those changes. We also celebrate and acknowledge the fundamentals of exceptional service that will never go out of style. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, or subscribe. Visit multifamilymedianetwork.com to learn more about our other exceptional industry podcasts, call pieces, and sponsorship opportunities.